Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by T.A. Forsberg and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So Michigan's University Research Corridor is a leading national academic research cluster fostering talent, academic research, and economic revitalization in the state. It's created by an alliance of Michigan's three leading research institutions, Michigan State, the University of Michigan, and Wayne State University. And here to discuss the work of the URC is its executive director, Dr. Britany Affolter-Caine. Welcome to the show, Britany.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about when the URC was founded and why was it originally founded and what's the mission?
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah.
So we were originally founded in 2006 by the presidents at the time of these three, what was classified as Carnegie classification of Research 1 institutions. Michigan is a unique state for lots of reasons, but in higher education particularly, because we don't have a governing board for higher ed or some sort of higher ed commission. And so we're very highly autonomous. And what that means when you go to seek funding, annual appropriations from the legislature, it can be kind of challenging when you have all these different universities that are different types of universities. It's hard for legislators and other key stakeholders to understand some of the differences. So by banding together as 3R1s, they could help define what uniquely they contribute to the state and why appropriations were important for what they do. So for example, Michigan is a top 10 state for academic R&D conducted, and 90% of that is conducted by these three URC universities.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of a difference. And the URC was formed to help translate what that value proposition is to the state, what it means for industry, what it means for families and communities and people in general, right? So that really did help form this alliance. And so the presidents founded it. I answer to the presidents. They're our executive director, executive board, and the three institutions pay equally into the URC. And our mission today is much the same in that we're always looking for those opportunities, as the presidents say to me. What are those things that we do well together that are highly complementary, that we can't do on our own, where we become or what we achieve is greater than the sum of our parts? And so we're always looking for those opportunities.
Got it. Okay. So can you clarify, just for the layperson who's not in this every day, we have a lot of great universities, many of whom are not named in this URC triad. So kind of what aren't they doing, or what, how would they, do they aspire to graduate to become part of this research? I think about, Grand Valley or Oakland or SVSU or Eastern or Western or Central or whatever. What are they not doing that would make them part of this research consortium?
So I think in higher education, we talk about this a lot in higher ed, that this Carnegie classification scheme, it's really meant to describe what different types of institutions do. Okay. How much do they focus on undergrad education? Do they offer doctoral degrees? Do they, are they doing a significant portion of research, right? And so sometimes I think it is seen as a hierarchy when it's really not meant to be one. It's just a descriptive scheme. So it kind of depends. We have some amazing institutions in the state of Michigan, the Midwest in general, right?
Yep.
Both public and private. And the truth is we can't achieve what we want as a state without all these institutions doing what they do well.
Yep.
And so for some of those institutions, it is serving the community that they're in the region that they're nested in, right? And really focusing on specific degree programs, maybe even doing some workforce work. So I think it just depends. And so these three Research 1 institutions, they dedicate a significant portion of their activity on campus to the research enterprise. And that's what distinguishes them and helps them make a unique contribution to the state.
Right. Got it. Okay. And so You mentioned how Michigan is a little bit unique. So I immediately think of three universities. It is in North Carolina, UNC, Duke, and NC State, I think, is the third.
They are the three anchors of the Research Triangle Park.
Right. Correct. Okay. So is that kind of a fair comparison? And how do they manage their worlds versus how you said Michigan does it differently? Yeah.
Well, let me give you an example. Okay. So just for folks not steeped in higher ed.
Right.
North Carolina is interesting, and they have a higher ed board, and they control, at least for the public institutions, what kinds of programs are offered. So the three universities you just named, two of them are public and fall under this governance, right?
Okay.
And so, for instance, NC State has an engineering program. Amazing. They're doing great work there. UNC Chapel Hill does not, but UNC Chapel Hill has a medical school, and NC State does not, because the board controls who they don't want duplication of efforts.
Okay.
So and by the way, those three institutions, and Duke as private can do pretty much whatever it wants. They anchor this research park, which was really novel and new at the time, 50, 60 years ago when they formed it. And the collaboration there is really not so much with the universities, but more the purpose being the research park itself and bringing in large industries into that space. And so when you go down there, and we've done some benchmarking down there, the universities themselves are not collaborating in the way that you might think, because it's really about the research park. So up here, all three of our institutions have engineering schools. We all have medical schools. And one of the things that translates when we benchmark our three universities to 7 other top university innovation clusters, including North Carolina and Silicon Valley and Boston, right? We have significantly more medical talent that we graduate every year consistently by almost 1,000 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, like degrees conferred.
Right.
And so that's a benefit for us. And years ago, they found that in terms of at least the MDs, that in the state it matters, because 4 out of every 10 practicing doctors in the state of Michigan earn their degree from a URC institution.
Nice. Okay. Now, you mentioned that the whole URC concept was created by the presidents, and if I'm not mistaken, we've got some newer presidents at these different universities. Does that sometimes upset the apple cart, or are they kind of like, do you have to feel like you have to kind of reinvent yourself or re-get their commitment to contribute into this process, or do you feel like you're established enough that these changes are welcome?
I think a lot of your listeners probably have been through some kind of leadership transition themselves at work.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's always, you want to make sure, because this is an organization that was founded by presidents and it operates for presidents, and is intended to help them with a shared mission. So it is important for us to understand, as we evolve as an organization, what that shared mission is for these presidents. And we have had some presidential retreats to get at that. One thing I am extremely excited about, and I have heard from a lot of our stakeholders, there is this growing excitement. I think we're a bit on ascendant as an organization and what we could achieve together, because these 3 presidents genuinely like one another a lot, and I think that they are very excited about this alliance for the purpose of not only how it can help them achieve their individual institutional goals, but then shared goals. Now, I think we're not exactly sure where we're going to take it, but we know that there's this awesome potential, right?
That's awesome.
And so I get, as you can probably tell, I get really excited thinking about how excited these 3 presidents are. They are all in.
Right. And you've got, that must be just a thrilling room to be in, to have that kind of mental horsepower and all the things that they bring to the table. They must be amazing people to get to know.
They are.
Professionally and even
they're
socially.
not like the rest of us. Like they're very humble and friendly, but they're superhumans, right? So
right.
I have to say, it's very exciting. And I feel smarter when I'm in the room with them. So
right. And we could all use a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I want to give a nod to our friends at Wagoner Financial. Are you ready to make a smart financial decision? Wagoner Financial offers proven processes for financial transformation, empowering individuals at all stages, whether you're starting out, nearing retirement, or anywhere in between. Stop feeling unsure about your financial path. Wagoner Financial can help you undergo this financial transformation. Schedule a consultation today to discuss your individual needs and discover how Wagoner can help guide you by visiting wagoner-financial.com or give them a call at 517-853-3367. So in my research, I looked on your website and was noticing you have 4 key impact areas. I'll just give them to you in case you don't have them written down, but you have sustainability, life and health sciences, artificial intelligence, and advanced manufacturing. Mm-hmm. Now, those clearly are massive buzzwords and have been for the last little bit of time, and hopefully will continue to be buzzwords, but it seems like that must change. I mean, artificial intelligence probably wasn't on there 5 years ago, No. So how often do you have to kind of modify your focal points?
So, the industries have been amazingly consistent over time. We have done reports, and reports were done long before I was even at the URC.
Okay.
Focused on automotive, focused on life and health sciences, focused on the blue economy, which would tuck up under sustainability. And so, these 4 areas, which I think are imprinted on my brain at the moment.
Sorry to give you the layup.
I love it. It's great. No, I'm glad someone else can say it. Listen, these are the 4 areas that the presidents came together and said, look, these are really important. These are areas where we are expending a lot of academic and research horsepower on. I think, and I hope your listeners understand when I come to this, but like sustainability, I know that sounds like a buzzword, but it isn't to us at the universities. I mean, they are, it sounds really grandiose, but they are really on a path to try to save the planet. And we have to incorporate facets of this. It's a very broad category. It includes things like sustainable energy and blue economy or anything related to water, which, by the way, we do a lot of work here in the state and at our universities. It is basically protecting future generations by making sure we're still meeting the needs of today's generation, right? And all that encompasses. And so there's pieces of mobility, which is one of our largest, most important industries in the state. And that has an element inside of sustainability. AI, that's been growing, and we think it very much could be on par with the impact that the internet has had on our lives and work, right?
Yep.
And I know it sounds really scary at times. And our universities are committed to making sure that we are using our efforts to responsibly develop AI technologies and use so that it enhances our lives and work and understanding of the world versus more scary elements that I think we talk about.
Nefarious even.
Yeah. And I think that with AI, we are also at the universities, and our presidents have been very clear about it, that it is intended to enhance the work that we do, not to replace workers.
Right.
So, I mean, I think you and everybody probably listening thinks about how much time a day they spend on email. I have this thought about AI that it's kind of like the proverbial vacuum cleaner that was supposed to liberate housewives from the drudgery of sweeping every day. And that turns out that they just vacuumed every day. And so email was supposed to liberate us from snail mail and things. And really, we end up, how much time do you spend on email?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I saw something that said, remember when the internet was supposed to save us time?
Exactly. But it has brought about we work differently. And I think that's kind of AI, the role there. And it really should be helping. At the end of the day, it's going to help almost in every industry. It's a cut through, right? Right. Life and health sciences is always important. And it represents the largest share of our R&D typically, because it's, federally funded NIH money, which is the largest funder of academic research. And so that's important, but it's really important on how that translates to care of people across the state, right? and improving health outcomes. And then, of course, advanced manufacturing is really important. I was just at a meeting yesterday, someone we brought in from Texas talking about innovation. And a lot of times we think about innovation as just being technology, but a lot of times it's really innovation within innovation. How do we just do things better, faster? How do we quickly scale new processes in the manufacturing process? And that's really a lot of what we're talking about. Automation Alley, we were talking about before we started.
Yep.
And some of the work that they're doing around Innovation 4.0 is really important. And then, of course, we wanted to include semiconductors in that space as well. Oh, here's something I learned. The University of Michigan has they graduate more master's students looking at semiconductor chip design. Yeah, I don't know. So
I can't imagine having a brain that works like that. Designing.
I'm really glad there are some, right? But it's a tough thing because you're talking about such tiny scale, right?
Right.
And so you asked, how do we pick these four? And we pick them because while each of our institutions has some, they're unique and they excel in specific areas, there are also areas that we overlap. And so we're looking for those spaces where we overlap, but we also have complementary assets, both in the education and in the R&D, as well as tech transfer. And it has to matter to the state of Michigan in our top industries. So that's really how we came up with these four areas. And we're really going to be, we have started already on our website, urcmich.org. You can go and take a look at two of the four industry profiles. Later this month, we'll have the other two up.
Nice.
And it really makes the case for what our institutions are doing to contribute in this space and why this space matters to the state of Michigan. And then we are currently in development of curating data that is of particular importance to economic development leaders, industry leaders, when it comes to both business attraction and growth in the state.
Okay. So you've got these three universities that are, tens of thousands of students and faculty and staff that are all working on all these great things, right? Mm-hmm. I guess the only thing I'm fuzzy on is, what is a day in the life of URC? What does your events calendar look like? Like, how do you, generally speaking, they're all doing their things, probably head down, working on stuff. So where and how does that actual collaboration happen?
Good question. I don't have a typical day, probably like a lot of my colleagues inside the universities, but there are, meetings we regularly meet with, both internally, leaders at the universities. We also meet regularly with external stakeholders. So for instance, my team and I, we have a regular meeting with marketing at the MEDC. How can we know better what they're up to and we can support them? And then we share what we're doing and how that helps them and doing that kind of work. But we have these kinds of meetings with other, I would say, partner organizations. And so how can we better work together on behalf of the state of Michigan? And so a lot of times it's seeking out opportunities. So yesterday there was something that just came out from the Fed's $50 million grant opportunity for expanding entrepreneurship, specifically scaling technologies.
Okay.
And so I haven't even gotten into the details of it yet, but that will lead to conversations. So when my children are always like, well, what do you really do, Mom, right? And at the end of the day, my role really is to not only know what it is that our institutions collectively add to the state. I have to effectively communicate that. My team and I are always working on relationship building. Because that's really important, because when opportunities come down, it isn't just knowing about it, but being able to pull from the network and establish relationships to do something together.
Makes sense. Here at Michigan Reimagine, we tell stories of passionate Michiganders doing great things across the state. And today's podcast sponsor takes the art of positive storytelling to a whole new level. The good people at Good Marketing work with organizations across the state that are having a positive impact on the lives of Michigan residents. They help educate communities on the importance of affordable housing, the impact of wildlife and natural resource management, the availability of workforce development and educational programs. If it lifts people up and makes the community stronger, then they want to help you spread that word. If your organization needs help communicating the good work you do, stop by their website at goodmarketing.com. That's GUD marketing.com. So is a lot of the work that's being done in your world at these universities faculty or students? Or is it a mix of both?
I would say it's a mix of both, but it is probably primarily faculty.
Okay.
And understanding where they're pushing the boundary of new knowledge and technology, as well as the translational piece of what discoveries can quickly move from the university space, or we say lab, to the market.
Right.
And so that's really important as well.
Right. Okay. So is there any concern about like duplicated effort? Are they competing with each other to develop technology that maybe they collaborate, or do you have like professors from different universities that are working together on maybe an invention or moving some sort of technology forward, or are they all kind of in their own camps and you use the URC to kind of, without obviously divulging everyone's work, I guess, kind of help shepherd things along? I guess I'm just trying to figure out how that would work.
You know, what's interesting is in the collaboration literature from the private sector, and I would argue it probably translates to the public sector too, the collaboration actually fosters more competition.
Sure. Okay.
And I'm not sure that that's a bad thing. I don't know that it's bad to have it. I wouldn't look at it as duplication of effort. Now, I haven't seen a lot of that. I've seen more of the collaborative, because when they call us, they want us to help them convene or coordinate. Or yesterday, I just wrote a letter of support for a grant to the NSF for a group that is collaborating, that has researchers across all 3 universities looking at drinking water. So, you know, I guess from the world that I see, it's highly collaborative. Or if there's a missing piece, someone might come to me like, who at the other universities would know, like, could fit this in.
Right.
And so recently we had, there was a big push for NSF Engines program. And there were multiple proposals put in from the state, and all of them were interconnected with our university. So University of Michigan had one, and Wayne State and MSU signed on in support of it, and we'll have a role if should that one get selected, right? Same with MSU and with Wayne State. So they are more collaborative.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a competitive element there too. They all want to win.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, athletics translates into academics too. I guess everyone's got their, go green, go white, or amazing blue, and
it's go blue, go green, and everything in between, Chris.
Right. Makes sense. So how do you measure results and outcomes? What would an annual report look like? What would you be proud of? What would be falling short? How do you set goals? That kind of thing.
Right. No, that's good. It's tough because we're at the 10,000 foot level, so we're just reporting out on aggregate for our universities around talent development, research and development, and tech transfer. And every year we benchmark ourselves. This started with the founding presidents. We use Anderson Economic Group, and every year they benchmark along those 3 areas, the URC to those 7 other clusters. And the reality is it's changed a little bit over time. So one area that we're watching is enrollment and degrees conferred, so the talent development category.
Okay.
Because we've grown it every year, and we were a leader for many years compared to those 7 other clusters, we're seeing changes that reflect demographic changes in the nation. So I know we're talking about growing our population in the state. This is really important because for many, many years we've been losing population.
Right.
And how that now is bearing out in our institutions is we see Southern California and Texas in particular, their trio of clusters we benchmark to surpass us, right?
Okay. Yep.
So that's something I'm not sure that the URC can actually make a difference on necessarily, but we track it, and we're, certainly when there are opportunities working either with the state or with other groups to reverse some of that, we're right there at the table. We track the R&D and of course tech transfer, which I think we're making great progress on. I think our tech transfer folks are amazing. So, but of course, fostering and getting some more help from the state. There was a report that just came out from the Citizens Research Council on innovation in the state, and public investment is certainly low compared to surrounding states. And if we really want to accelerate the amazing innovation coming out of our institutions in the state of Michigan, we really do need to better support it and have a stronger ecosystem, from funding to experts in those spaces that can quickly commercialize specific technologies. So we're having those conversations, and that would be a success if we could say, okay, we have more investment and this is going to lead to better outcomes.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you, this has been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate all the work that you're doing out there in the communities and pushing this all forward. Is there any way that our listeners can follow along or learn more about the story of the URC?
Oh, yes. So we're pretty active on social, in particular LinkedIn, X, and formerly Twitter, and Facebook. So if any of those are your listeners' favorites, they can go there. And of course, our website, urcmich.org.
Got it. And University Research Corridor, you just search that on whatever search engine platform.
And let me plug this.
Yeah, please.
So our three presidents are going to be together on October 15th, the Detroit Economic Club luncheon.
Oh, wow.
And so they're going to be talking about this exact thing much more eloquently, I'm sure. And so people can tune into that too.
Wonderful. And are you going to moderate that conversation?
Oh, no.
Wonderful. Well, we've been talking to the Executive Director of the University Research Corridor, Dr. Britany Affolter-Caine. I really appreciate you joining me and telling the story, and hopefully we can have you back and we can have another update down the road.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And we all need a... I'd love to give a final shout out to my loyal sponsors. We've got Forsberg Real Estate, Wagoner Financial, Triterra Environmental, Good Marketing, Keller Williams Advantage and Team, Michigan Rise, and the attorneys at Foster Swift. All fantastic people who are worth the call. And if you found this show as a one-off, remind you to follow and subscribe to Michigan Reimagined on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts. This is Chris Buck. Thanks for listening to Michigan Reimagined.